The horizon drifted through the dark silence of space, its silver hull catching the light of distant stars for 200 years. The ship had been gone from the galaxy's main routes, traveling far beyond known space. For the crew, it had only been 6 years, thanks to near-light-speed travel when they left. Humanity had been a small voice among thousands of alien civilizations. The galaxy saw Earth as young, inexperienced, and harmless. But now, as the horizon approached the galactic core again, something felt different. The ship's long-range scanners picked up strange signals. The transmissions carried a single word, repeated over and over in hundreds of alien languages. Terra, the name of Earth. The crew looked at one another in confusion. It wasn't just the word. It was the way it was spoken. Soft, reverent. Almost like a prayer, Captain Elias Ward stood on the bridge, his eyes locked on the holographic display. "Why is every system chanting our planet's name?" he asked quietly. No one had an answer. Lieutenant Mara, the communications officer, tried to open a channel to the nearest station. Every hail went unanswered. Instead, alien voices kept broadcasting, repeating ancient-sounding phrases. "The first light returns," one said in a deep tone. "The Starborn awaken," another whispered. Elias felt a chill crawl down his spine. The galaxy had never spoken of humans like this before. The navigation officer reported that a massive space station lay ahead. The Horizon's records showed no such station in this sector when they had left. This one was huge, large enough to hold entire cities inside. Alien ships swarmed around it. Their design strange and unfamiliar. They were not preparing weapons. Instead, they moved aside, clearing a path for the Horizon. It was as if they were welcoming it. "Sir, they are hailing us now," Mara said, her voice tense. A figure appeared on the main screen. It was a tall alien with deep blue skin and golden eyes. Wearing robes lined with silver thread, the alien's head lowered in. A slow bow. "Welcome, children of Terra," he said, his voice warm and almost trembling with awe. "The galaxy has awaited your return for 1,000 generations." The crew froze. 1,000 generations. That made no sense. Elias stepped forward. "We have been gone for only 200 years, he said firmly. The alien smiled. "To you, perhaps, but to the galaxy. You have been gone for 12,000 years." The bridge fell silent. Elias whispered, "That's impossible," but deep inside, they all knew. Traveling near the speed of light had strange effects on time. It was possible, the alien continued. "The galaxy remembers the War of Ascension, when the first light your kind brought unity to the stars." Elias exchanged uneasy glances with his officers. They had no record of such a war. But the alien spoke as if it were sacred history. The Horizon was granted permission to dock as the ship approached the station. Thousands of aliens gathered on massive viewing platforms. They were cheering, waving banners, some even kneeling. It was not the welcome of political allies, it was worship. When the docking clamps locked, the crew prepared to step into a galaxy they no longer recognized. The air inside the station was warm and filled with strange scents. Elias led the first landing party. Alien guards lined the path, their heads lowered in respect. At the far end stood a delegation of alien leaders, each from a different species. They all bowed deeply before speaking. "You honor us by walking among us once more," said a scaled alien with bright amber eyes. Elias kept his voice steady. "We are just explorers returning home." But the alien shook his head. "You are not just explorers. You are the Starborn ancestors, the bringers of light and order." Mara stepped forward. "Why do you call us that?" "We are just humans from Earth." The alien leader gestured toward a large circular hall behind him. "Because you have always been more than human. Come, and you will see." The landing party followed, their footsteps echoing through the vast corridor. They entered the hall and froze. The walls were covered in carvings and paintings. Every image showed humans leading vast fleets, standing victorious over alien worlds, wielding weapons no one on the Horizon had ever seen. Some were images of battle, others of peace treaties, but in all of them, humans stood at the center. In the largest mural, a human woman stood on the bow of a great ship, shining sword in her hand. Her face was calm, her gaze fierce. Elias felt his heart stop. It was Mara. Every detail of her face, the eyes, the cheekbones, the curve of her jaw, it was her. But Mara was standing right beside him, very much alive. The alien leader bowed again. Behold, the commander of the First Light returned at last. Mira's mouth went dry. That's not possible, she whispered. The alien's golden eyes gleamed. Everything is possible when the Starborn walk among us. Elias stepped forward, his voice low but sharp. What happened while we were gone? The alien only smiled. The truth will come to you, but first, the galaxy must celebrate your return, as music began to echo through the station. Elias glanced at Mara. Her face was pale, her eyes locked on the mural. If this was just the beginning, then the truth, whatever it was going to change everything. The celebration inside the station continued. But for the crew of the Horizon, every cheer carried a shadow of unease. The aliens treated them like holy beings, yet not one could explain in plain words why. Every answer was wrapped in reverence, as if speaking too directly about the past would break some sacred rule. Captain Elias stood near a grand balcony overlooking the station's main concourse. Below, thousands of beings from dozens of species moved like a living river. Some brought flowers of glowing crystal, others burned incense that filled the air, with a sweet metallic scent everywhere. Voices rose in chants that blended into a low hum, and always the word Terra echoed through it. Lieutenant Mara kept close to Elias. She still couldn't stop glancing at the massive mural that bore her own face. How can they know me? How can they think I was here thousands of years ago? She whispered. Elias didn't answer. He didn't have one. An alien with soft green skin and large silver eyes approached them. He wore no weapons, only a long robe embroidered with symbols that glowed faintly. He bowed deeply before speaking. Honored Starborn. The Council of Reverence wishes to speak with you. Elias hesitated. He didn't like the sound of that name, but refusing might close doors. They needed to open. Lead the way, he said. The alien guided them through a winding corridor of glass walls. Outside, they could see the vast curve of the station's interior. Green parks, silver towers, rivers of liquid light. It was a city in space, larger than most planets' capitals. And yet, it had been built while they were gone. 200 years for them, but 12,000 for the galaxy. It was enough time to build legends. Lies, or both. At last they entered a chamber shaped like a half-moon. Tall figures sat on curved thrones, each wearing ceremonial clothing unique to their species. Their eyes followed the humans with the intensity of predators and the devotion of worshippers. One, a scaled being with gold-tipped horns, leaned forward. Children of Terra, he said, you return at the moment of greatest need. Elias kept his voice careful. What is it you need from us? The being's eyes glowed faintly. Your leadership, your guidance, your light. As before, Mara frowned. Before? We were never leaders here. We only explored. Soft laughter rippled among the council members. To you, perhaps, said a tall avian alien. But your kind once ruled the stars. The War of Ascension was your gift to the galaxy. You united us, brought peace after the long darkness, and then you vanished. Ilias's jaw tightened, and now the avian's feathers shifted with unease, and now the galaxy fractures again. Old enemies stir. Some believe your return means the Dawn War will be fought once more. That name sent a murmur through the humans. The Dawn War, they had never heard of it. But the way it was spoken made it sound as if the entire galaxy feared its return. One council member, an insectoid with a voice like cracking glass, spoke sharply. You will not be safe here if the truth spreads too fast. There are those who hate the Starborn as much as others worship them. Elias stepped forward. Then tell me the truth. Who are these enemies? The council fell silent. Finally, the green-skinned envoy from earlier spoke. They are called the Veilborn. Long ago, they were the only ones who resisted you. They claim your people nearly destroyed the galaxy to win the War of Ascension. If they know you have returned, they will come for you. The chamber's doors opened suddenly, and another alien rushed in. He was smaller, wrapped in a hooded cloak, and he did not bow. Instead, he pointed at the humans and shouted, "They are not the Starborn? They are only shadows wearing human skin." Gasps filled the room. Guards seized him, but not before he hurled something onto the floor. It was a small device, a hologram projector, lit up, showing a battle scene. Humans in strange armor were fighting, wielding weapons that could tear apart ships with a single shot. At their head was a woman who looked exactly like Mara. Her voice rang out from the recording. "No peace without victory. No victory without Terra." The hologram flickered and died. Mara's hands trembled. "That's not me," she said softly. The cloaked alien shouted as he was dragged away. "They will bring the war again. The Veilborn will burn every world to stop them." The council ended the meeting quickly after that. Elias and his team were escorted back to their quarters under heavy guard. No one spoke for a long time. Finally, Mara broke the silence. What if we are the ones who start this war? What if history is about to repeat itself?" Elias didn't answer right away. He was staring at the stars outside the viewport. If the galaxy saw them as saviors or destroyers, it didn't matter. Either way, trouble was coming. The Horizon's crew was restless. After the council meeting, rumors spread quickly among them. Some believed the aliens' words that they were the descendants or even the reincarnations of ancient human leaders. Others thought it was all a massive lie to control them, but no one could ignore the feeling that something much larger than themselves was unfolding. Captain Elias called a small meeting in the strategy room. Mara, Commander Juno, and Science Officer Dr. Chiron joined him. Elias looked at each of them before speaking. "The council gave us an invitation tomorrow. We visit something they call the Monument of the First." Dr. Chiron frowned. "First, what?" Elias shook his head. "They didn't say. But they promised it would answer some of our questions when the day came." The humans were escorted through the station's crowded concourses. Everywhere they walked, aliens stopped to bow. Some reached out to touch their clothes, as if to confirm they were real. It was both unsettling and suffocating. Finally, they reached a hangar where a sleek transport ship awaited. The alien pilot bowed low and gestured for them to board. The journey took them away from the station, through open space, and toward a small, luminous world. From orbit, the planet looked like a jewel, oceans of silver-blue water and land covered in glowing forests. This world, the pilot explained, was once the heart of the Starborn's empire. Mara exchanged a glance with Elias. Empire, that word made her uneasy. They landed near a towering structure of black stone and shimmering crystal. It was unlike any building they had seen before. The air felt heavy with age, as if the ground itself remembered things too ancient for memory. The aliens called it the Monument of the First. It rose like a spear toward the sky, its surface carved with intricate symbols. Streams of light ran through the carvings, pulsing gently like a heartbeat as they entered. The vast hall swallowed them in silence. Tall statues lined the walls, each one a human figure in armor, their faces proud and unyielding. At the center stood the largest statue of all, a woman holding a staff crowned with a blazing crystal. Elias stopped breathing for a moment. The face was familiar, too familiar. It was Mara. Again, Mara stepped forward slowly, her eyes fixed on the statue. This is impossible," she whispered. The alien guide bowed. "This is the commander of the First Light. She led the final charge that ended the War of Ascension." Mara shook her head. "But that's not me. I've never been here. I've never led a war." The alien's golden eyes softened. "Perhaps not in this life," he said quietly. "But the galaxy remembers your soul." Dr. Chiron moved closer to the statue's base, scanning it with his wrist device. "Captain, the material here, it's older than any human construction I've ever seen. The crystal at the top, it's giving off an energy signature we can't reproduce even now." Ilias's jaw tightened. If this was fake, it was the most advanced forgery imaginable. If it was real, then history as they knew it was a lie. The alien guide beckoned them toward another chamber. "This is the Hall of Memories," he said. Inside, the walls shimmered like liquid light. When the guide touched a panel, images appeared in the air. Scenes of war, human fleets clashing with strange black ships, planets burning, alien armies kneeling in surrender. In every scene, humans stood at the center, their weapons blazing, and always. Mara's double, the commander, was there, leading them. Elias studied the images carefully. The armor, the ships, even the star maps didn't match anything in their records. These weren't just fabrications. They were from a time no human had ever recorded. Then, the images shifted. The war was over. The commander stood before a gathering of alien leaders holding the crystal staff. Her voice rang out, deep and commanding. The stars are one now. The light will guide all worlds, and when darkness rises again, the Starborn will return. The projection ended, leaving the chamber in silence. Mara's hands were clenched into fists. "I don't understand," she said, her voice low. "Why would they show me this? Why make me? Her." The guide bowed again. "Because you are her. The galaxy has waited for you to finish what you began." Elias stepped forward, his tone sharp. "What exactly do you expect us to do?" The alien's expression grew solemn. "The Veilborn have awakened. The same enemy that you defeated once will rise again. Without you, the galaxy will fall." Dr. Chiron broke the tension, his voice cold. "Or maybe this is all a story to pull us into someone else's war." The alien didn't argue. He only said, "Whether you believe or not, the enemy believes. They will come for you." When they left the monument, the air outside felt heavier. Mara kept looking back at the black stone tower until it vanished from sight. In her mind, she kept seeing the face from the statue. Her own face, but older, harder, and far more dangerous, back on the horizon. Elias gathered the senior officers. "We're being drawn into something we don't understand," said. "But one thing is certain. Someone out there wants us to play a role we didn't choose." Mara looked at him, her voice steady. "Captain, maybe it's not about choosing. Maybe it's about surviving what's coming." The horizon left the luminous world behind, but the weight of the monument clung to the crew like invisible chains. Mara avoided mirrors now. Every time she saw her own face, she thought of the statue and the battle recordings. Elias spent hours in the command chair without speaking, watching the stars slip by as if they might whisper answers. Then came the summons. The Council of Reverence wanted them to visit a place few had ever entered, the Celestial Archives, according to the envoy. Only the returned, those believed to be the Starborn, could step inside. Elias agreed, though his instincts screamed caution. If there were answers, they might be hidden there. The archives were not on the station, but on an old, drifting megastructure in deep space. It was ancient, its metal surface worn smooth by millennia of starlight and dust. No light shone from its exterior, yet strange energy readings pulsed from within. Alien escorts guided the humans through a single massive door carved with the same glowing symbols they had seen on the monument. Inside, the air was cool and dry. The halls stretched endlessly, filled with towering shelves of data crystals. Each crystal pulsed with soft light, like a heartbeat frozen in time. Holoterminals hovered at intervals, ready to project their stored knowledge. The alien archivist, a tall figure with silver skin and a voice like wind over stone, bowed deeply. "Here is the memory of the galaxy," he said, "and here is the memory of your people." Elias stepped forward. "Then show us." The archivist led them to a sealed chamber. Two guards placed their hands on an ancient console, unlocking the heavy door with a low hum inside. The shelves were different, black instead of silver, their crystals marked with a golden crest. "This," the archivist whispered, "is the Starborn record." Mara touched one crystal, and it flared to life. A projection filled the room. Humans in advanced armor commanding fleets larger than any in modern space. Planets surrendered without a fight. Others burned in firestorms of energy weapons too powerful for the mind to grasp. The voice of the commander, her own voice, though older and sharper, rang through the air. "No world shall stand against the light, no peace without unity, no unity without Terra." Mara stepped back as if struck. "That's not me," she whispered. The archivist only bowed his head. "It is you, as the galaxy remembers." Dr. Chiron moved to another crystal. This one showed a map of the galaxy. It lit up with human-controlled systems. expanding over centuries. Then, suddenly, large swaths went dark, consumed by shadow. The archivist spoke softly. The Veilborn came. They destroyed worlds. But in the end, you defeated them. Your fleets vanished into the stars. And the galaxy waited for your return. Elias narrowed his eyes. And who recorded all of this? The archivist hesitated. These records have been maintained by the Keepers of Light since the War of Ascension. Mara's brow furrowed. Then they could have been changed, rewritten, to tell the story you wanted. The archivist's golden eyes darkened. Why would we rewrite the truth? Dr. Chiron gave a bitter smile. Because a galaxy that worships humanity is easier to control if humanity believes it deserves that worship. The tension in the chamber thickened. Elias turned to the archivist. Where are the unedited records? The raw data from the time these events happened? The alien's gaze flickered toward a shadowed door at the far end. That chamber is restricted even for the returned. It holds what some call dangerous truths. Without waiting for permission, Elias started walking toward it. The guards moved to block him, but Mara stepped forward, her voice sharp. Stand aside for a moment. The guards hesitated. The sight of her face seemed to stir something deep in their memory, and they obeyed. Inside the hidden chamber, the air was colder. Only a single table stood in the center. On it, one crystal rested in a metal cradle. Unlike the others, it was cracked, its light flickering weakly when Mara activated it. The projection was different. It was the same war, the same fleets, the same battles, but there was no noble speech, no words about unity or light. Instead, the commander's voice was hard, commanding the destruction of entire cities to force surrender. Alien civilians ran in the streets as firestorms swept over them. Elias's face turned to stone. This is not the legend they told. The archivist stepped into the doorway, his voice low. That is why it is forbidden. The Starborn brought peace, yes, but through fear, you were not only saviors, you were conquerors. The room fell into heavy silence for the first time. Mara didn't know whether to feel pride or shame. If the galaxy had been built on fear of humans, what would happen when they realized humanity had returned? On the way back to the horizon, Elias spoke quietly to Mara. We've been handed a choice. We can let the galaxy keep believing the story, or we can tell the truth and watch it burn. Mara's gaze stayed on the stars beyond the shuttle window. Either way, Captain, the Veilborn will know we're here soon. The horizon floated in the quiet darkness of space, but the crew could feel the storm building. The truths they had uncovered in the forbidden archives weighed heavily on them. It was no longer a simple mystery about the galaxy's strange worship of humans. It was a dangerous secret, one that could shatter that worship in a heartbeat. Captain Elias stood at the forward viewport, his reflection faint against the stars. He had barely slept. Every choice ahead of him led to danger. If they stayed silent, they would be playing the part of gods. If they spoke the truth, they could become the most hated species in the galaxy. It was then that the first shadow moved. A faint distortion appeared at the edge of the horizon's sensors, too faint to be a normal ship. Lieutenant Mara leaned over the console. Captain, something's following us. The shape was there one moment and gone the next. Dr. Chiron frowned. That's stealth tech far beyond what the Council has. Hours later, while the ship drifted near a barren moon, a coded transmission slipped. Through the horizon's communications array, it wasn't from the Council. It wasn't from any friendly source. The message was short, written in an alien script they had never seen before. But the translation came instantly, as if the words, "Wanted to be understood? We see you, Starborn. Leave now or be erased." The bridge fell silent. Mara glanced at Elias Veilborn. Elias nodded slowly. Most likely, that night, the ship was quieter than usual. Crew members whispered in the corridors. Some feared the Veilborn were only a ghost story meant to keep the galaxy loyal to humans. Others feared the opposite, that the Veilborn were real, and were already here. The next day, Elias ordered a detour. If the Veilborn wanted them gone, he needed to know why. They set course for a neutral trade outpost on the edge of a lawless sector. It was the kind of place where rumors flowed faster than official reports when the Horizon docked. The air was thick with smoke and the scent of strange spices. Merchants shouted over one another, offering weapons, data chips. In black market tech, Elias, Mara, and Dr. Chiron moved through the crowd. No one bowed here. No one treated them like gods. If anything, the stares they got were sharp, watchful, and dangerous. They found the one they were looking for. A hooded figure sitting in the corner of a dim cantina. The alien's voice was low and rasping when Elias sat across from him. "You should not have come here, Starborn." Elias leaned forward. "Then maybe you should tell me why." The alien pulled back his hood, revealing pale gray skin and eyes like black glass. "The Veilborn are not a story. We are the truth. Your council fears." He tapped a datapad. Us. Sending a burst of encrypted files to Mara's wrist device. Images appeared. Worlds burning. Fleets destroyed. Cities turned to ash. These are not the wars of your legend. These are the wars you started. Mara's voice was tight. "You think we're the same people who did this?" "We're not." The alien's black glass eyes glinted. "It doesn't matter who you are now. The name Starborn is enough to bring the fire. And the fire is coming." Elias studied the alien. "Then why warn us? Why not destroy us now?" The alien leaned closer. "Because there are those among us who believe you might make a different choice this time, but the others, the ones who lead, will come to erase you before you can decide." Suddenly, the cantina's lights flickered. Mara's wrist device beeped in alarm. The Horizon was under attack. Elias sprang to his feet through the cantina's open doors. He saw a sleek black ship cutting through the void outside. It moved like a predator, silent and deadly. Its weapons lit the docking bay in flashes of cold blue light. The crew raced back to the Horizon. Alarms wailed as the ship's shields flared against incoming fire. "Veilborn signature confirmed," shouted the tactical officer. Elias ordered evasive maneuvers. The Horizon twisted through space, engines screaming. But the Veilborn ship stayed with them, never falling behind, never closing too fast. It was hunting, testing them. Finally, after a tense chase through an asteroid field, the Veilborn ship pulled back. It hovered just beyond weapons range. Then, with a flicker of shadow, it vanished. The bridge crew sat in stunned silence. Mara broke it with a whisper. "They could have destroyed us. Why didn't they?" Elias didn't answer right away. His eyes stayed on the empty space where the ship had been. "Because they're not ready yet," he said quietly. "They want us afraid. And they want us to know they're coming that night." Elias sent a private message to Mara. "We can't stay here. We need to go somewhere the council can't control. Somewhere the Veilborn won't expect." Mara replied with only 4 words. "I think I know." The Horizon left the trade outpost in silence. No farewell messages, no escorts. No council approval, only a new set of coordinates locked into the navigation system. Coordinates Mara had entered herself. When Elias asked where they led, she only said, "A place I saw. In the archives, a place they didn't want us to notice." The journey took them into deep space, far from established trade routes. Days passed without encountering another ship. The crew grew restless. Some whispered about the Veilborn ship that had hunted them. Others feared the council's worship might turn to anger if they learned the Horizon had vanished without permission. Finally, the ship emerged from faster-than-light travel into a region of swirling dust clouds and broken asteroids, the stars. Here were dim. A dead silence seemed to hang over the entire sector. "There's nothing here," Commander Juno said, scanning the void. Mara's eyes stayed on her console. "There's something," she said quietly, "but it's hidden." She sent a pulse through the dust clouds, a narrow-band signal encoded in a pattern she had seen carved into the base of the commander's statue on the monument. The pulse vanished into the darkness. For a long moment, nothing happened. Then the dust ahead began to shift. A shape emerged, not a ship, but a world. Its surface was gray and cracked, with oceans the color of steel. And yet faint lights glimmered across its night side. "It's cloaked," Dr. Chiron murmured, "and it's been here a long time." They descended through heavy cloud cover. The air outside was thick with static when the horizon broke through. They saw sprawling ruins below, vast cities half buried in sand, towers leaning like tired giants. But among the ruins were signs of life, small fires. Moving shadows, Captain, Mara said. This was once a human world. Elias's brow furrowed. That's impossible. Earth never had colonies this far out. Dr. Chiron shook his head. Not in our history, but maybe in theirs. They landed near the largest city ruin, streets wide enough for massive war machines. The air smelled faintly of metal and ash. As the crew stepped onto the cracked stone, they felt the weight of time pressing down on them. It wasn't just an abandoned city, it was a grave. They weren't alone. Figures emerged from the shadows, not aliens, but humans. Their skin was pale from generations under dim skies. Their clothing patched from scavenged fabric. The leader stepped forward, a tall man with a long coat and a scar across his cheek. You shouldn't be here, he said, his voice low. Elias stepped forward. Neither should you, if the galaxy believes this place is dead. The man's eyes narrowed. That's the point, Captain. It's easier to survive when no one remembers you. The man introduced himself as Corin, one of the last keepers of the Forgotten. They were descendants of Starborn soldiers who had refused to return to the galaxy after the War of Ascension. Instead, they had hidden here, protecting something. They called the final record Inside a Crumbling Building. Corin led them down into the darkness. Ancient machinery hummed faintly in the cold air. At the center of the chamber was a large sealed vault. Corin placed his hand on the panel. It scanned his DNA and clicked open. Inside was a single stasis pod. The glass was clouded. But a human figure lay within, a man in dark armor, his chest marked with the same crest the horizon had seen in the archives. Mara's breath caught. I've seen him before, she whispered. In the war recordings he fought beside. Her Corin nodded. That's because he was the commander's second. He remembers everything. They powered up the stasis controls. The glass cleared, and the man's eyes opened. They were sharp, piercing, and instantly locked on. Mara, it's you, he said, his voice rough from centuries of silence. You came back. Mara shook her head. I'm not her. The man's gaze didn't waver. You have her face, her voice, her command. And whether you want it or not, you have her war. Elias stepped in. We didn't start any war. We're trying to stop one. The man gave a bitter smile. Then you'd better understand how it began. The Veilborn will not stop until every human world is ash, and the Council will feed you lies until you serve their purpose. He told them of the final days of the War of Ascension, how the Starborn had won, but at terrible cost. Entire systems burned. Countless lives lost. The galaxy's fear of humanity had grown so deep that the Council erased much of the truth, replacing it with the myth of benevolent saviors. But myths don't erase hatred, the man said, and the Veilborn's hatred has only sharpened. With time, before they could ask more, Corin's communicator crackled with static. A single word cut through incoming. The man in the stasis pod stepped out, his armor locking into place. They found you, he said grimly, and now they'll find all of us. Elias turned to his crew, back to the horizon. Now, but even as they moved, the sky above split with streaks of dark metal. The Veilborn had arrived, and there was no more hiding. The first blast shook the ruins like an earthquake. Dust rained from the cracked walls as the sound of engines roared above. The Veilborn ships descended like predators, their black holes swallowing the dim light. Elias could feel the weight of their presence cold. Relentless and patient, they had been hunting the horizon, and now they had cornered it. The man from the stasis pod, Corin had called him Commander Kale, stepped forward, his armor gleaming in the flickering light. They won't attack all at once, Kale said. They want to trap you, force you into surrender. Elias glanced upward, seeing the ships circling like vultures. If they wanted to kill us, they would have already, he muttered. Kale's expression hardened. They want you alive, Captain. For the message your capture will send. Mara stood by the doorway, her hand tight on her sidearm. She was staring at the horizon where black shapes were moving through the air. Veilborn ground troops. Tall and thin, their armor shaped like jagged bone. They're spreading out. She said, surrounding us. Dr. Chiron tapped at his wrist device, pulling up a projection of the area. If we move now, there's a gap to the east, a canyon that leads back toward the horizon. Cale shook his head. They'll close it before you reach it. The only way out is through them, and that means making a choice. Elias turned to him sharply. What choice? Cale's eyes were like steel. You'd either fight your way through, showing the galaxy that the Starborn still have teeth, or you surrender. Let the Council use you as their symbol, while the Veilborn gain more ground. Either way, the galaxy will remember. Mara's voice was low. And what about the truth? What about what we saw in the archives? Cale looked at her for a long moment. The truth is dangerous, but lies are worse. If you tell the galaxy what really happened, you'll tear their faith apart. If you keep the lie, you might unite them, but under a shadow, another blast rocked the building. Elias felt the ground shiver under his boots. He looked around at his crew. Some were ready to fight, others were pale with fear. The weight of their decision pressed down on him like a planet's gravity. Outside, the Veilborn began their advance. Lines of black armor moved with precise, terrifying silence. Energy weapons hummed in their hands. Mara's gaze shifted to Elias. Captain. Whatever we decide now. Elias closed his eyes for a moment. In the darkness behind them, he saw two futures. In one, they fought. Bleeding and burning, but standing as something more than a symbol. In the other, they surrendered. Living but bound to the Council's control, both futures ended in war. But one allowed them to choose their own side. He opened his eyes. Prepare to move, he said, his voice steady. We fight our way out. We tell the truth when we reach open space. If the galaxy wants to worship us, let them worship the truth, not the lie. Cale gave a grim nod. That will make you enemies everywhere. Elias met his gaze. Then we'll just have to survive them. The crew moved quickly, gathering weapons and securing the civilians who lived among the ruins. Corin led them through a narrow street toward the eastern canyon. The sound of battle grew louder as the Veilborn realized their prey was moving. Bolts of blue energy slammed into walls and tore chunks from the ground. The air filled with the metallic scent of burning stone. Mara moved at the front, her shots precise. Veilborn soldiers fell, their armor shattering under focused fire. Cale fought like he had been born for it, every movement controlled, every strike lethal. The Horizon's crew followed, covering each other as they pushed forward. They reached the canyon's mouth just as the Veilborn closed in from both sides. Elias shouted into his helm, "Get the Horizon ready for immediate launch." "We're bringing company," the reply came through static. "Understood, Captain. Docking bay is open." The final push was chaos. Blinding flashes lit the canyon walls. The roar of the Horizon's engines grew louder as they neared the landing site. One Veilborn soldier broke through the defensive line. Aiming at Mara, Cale stepped into the shot, his armor taking the full blast. He staggered, but kept moving. "Go," he roared. "Don't stop." The crew spilled into the docking bay, the Horizon's ramp lowering like a lifeline. They scrambled aboard as the Veilborn closed in. Elias was the last to enter, hitting the control to seal the ramp. "Get us out of here," they ordered. The Horizon lifted from the ruins, engines flaring. Veilborn ships gave chase, but the Horizon dove into the dust clouds, vanishing from sensors. Only when the stars returned to the viewports did the crew allow themselves to breathe. The and